We'll have open forum. Little information about open forum. Anyone who wishes to speak on any agenda item should fill out a blue card. You find those blue cards in the back, and you'll have 4 minutes to speak. We have two open forums. This particular one will last approximately 30 minutes, not over that, hopefully. And if you don't get an opportunity to express yourself during this open forum, you will be allowed to speak at the open forum later at the end of the meeting. Okay. Council, you have the minutes before you. What's your pleasure?
Move the approval.
Second.
Any corrections? Please vote. Watson, let's go over to open forum. I need to back up to open forum. And I have Mr. C.H. Cobb. He must have stepped outside. I saw him here somewhere. Mike Kilmer.
Hey, everybody. Mike Kilmer, 2818 West Jackson Street. I've been in touch with Councilman Townsend and as well as Linda Moultrie from the Board of Education. Still working on getting the playground in our neighborhood between Pace and W Street, between Garden and Cervantes, opened up. It's the only, potentially, it could be the only playground in the neighborhood. There's a bunch of young people that live in the neighborhood. Mostly they just play on the street or in some of the empty yards. And since there's 3 little kind of play sets in behind Ali Nestra, the closed down Ali Nestra school, my 2.5-year-old and I thought maybe we could open the chain link fence and go play on them. So Linda with the Board of Education said that they don't want to deal with it. I suggested maybe they could lease the land to the city, and there might need to be a fence moved or a little fence put in, and then in my mind the chain link fence would be removed from at least one side of the playground so that it doesn't have a prison-like feel to it, and kids can start playing in it and getting to know each other, learning from each other, and getting more of a feeling of community and optimism and confidence that studying and learning in school can lead to a better life. Rivka and I are pretty well educated, and we feel like education is the most important thing that we can have in this life, and that having the confidence to feel like you can actually attain a good education can give you everything in the world. We feel like through our kids, who are going to be very intelligent and well educated, communally networking and playing with the other kids in the neighborhood, that'll make everyone feel like they can have a more well-rounded, worldly, and worthwhile life, which will make people feel like it's more worth staying home at night with the family and studying, reading books, learning math. So I think Councilman Townsend's going to work on presenting this to you people at some point, hopefully not too long from now, and just here to ask that you'll support the movement and do whatever you can to help this little vision of mine along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kilmer. As I stipulated to you, I plan to pursue that with the mayor's office and try to respond to your email and see whether it's feasible that we can do it. So thank you so much. Councilwoman Pratt.
Thank you. On Monday, we spoke about the issue of the number of schools that have closed recently, and we have sort of identified that Councilman Spencer would be approaching the school board to talk about what we can do with the closed schools, what their vision for it is, so that we can help to strengthen neighborhoods by thinking through how we can work with them. And this would be a good thing to tack on your list.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ms. Rebecca Hires.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members of the council, for giving me this opportunity to speak. One topic that has come up in a lot of different forms in various meetings has been some of the changes in city government that have come about as part of the new charter. And I want to address one of those changes today, and that is the boards, the various boards that report to the council, and in particular, the Environmental Advisory Board. The Environmental Advisory Board has not met since March. This board performs a very important function. It has work in progress that needs to be addressed, such as the toxicity from treated telephone poles, such as the Carpenter Creek watershed. And I would like the council to support activating that board and getting it meeting again. I spoke with Mr. Robert Niger, who is the chairman of that board. He expressed to me that he wasn't sure that the council was supporting the board, and he wasn't certain what the status of the board was under the new charter. So I think there needs to be some clarification from the council. I would like to see the council reaffirm their commitment to the Environmental Advisory Board and support allocation of resources from the city to support its administrative functions, set an agenda, and get the board meeting again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can tell you that we have had discussions on that, and that has been an issue for the last two meetings. And I think Councilwoman Myers has been an advocate of this in the last committee meetings, and she has asked to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to apologize to Ms. Heyer regarding this matter not being on the agenda. You have been down to the Committee of the Whole now twice expecting this issue to be on the agenda. At the last Committee of the Whole, not this week, but the previous Committee of the Whole, I was going to make a motion that this issue be put on the agenda for discussion. I was told by the President, Councilman Hall, there was no need to make a motion. He would put it on the agenda. And it was not on the agenda. And quite frankly, I was very upset when I saw that this issue was not on the agenda. I would have made the motion, and I believe it would have passed. So I'm going to bring this up again tonight under either new business or unfinished business. And we'll have a further discussion at that time regarding this. So I hope you can stay around.
Thank you, Councilman Myers. Marlon Mueller.
Thank you. I came here tonight to ask President Hall to step down as president, and for Mr. Spencer, who is my representative, if Sam Hall did not step down, to bring the chair to a vote. I was here last meeting, and with a large group of people, and I think we got our point well out there, and I don't think we were listened to by a number of people. I think the attitude of some, Mr. Johnson, telling us that it was time to move on, I thought that was totally out of line. I think that you're our representatives, and we tell you when it's time to move on. And Councilperson Pratt, you said that that people soon forget, and I agree. They forget when the problem goes away. I think we're very forgiving people, but the more I see of President Hall, the more I have to say it's time for him to step down. You know, I could come to you on one issue, but I can actually come to you on a number of issues, in just the First Amendment issues. I can come to you with many instances that he stepped beyond the point. So again, since he's not here, I won't be calling. This is my second attempt of 3 tries, and I will be here next meeting to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Susan Feathers.
My name is Susan Feathers, and I reside at 4344 Langley Avenue. And I want to thank the council members and Councilman Townsend for letting me speak this evening. This is a follow-up to the last presentation where Sustainable Gulf Coast, 350 Pensacola, made a presentation encouraging the council to develop a sustainability plan. And we were extremely encouraged by all the responses from you all. It seems like we're kind of, there's a lot of things that are moving together on that. And Councilman Myers had encouraged me to get in touch with Cynthia Williams in the mayor's office to talk about grant writing, because one of the things that we said we would do as a group is that we would bring our resources to the council. And I do happen to be a professional grant writer and fundraiser, so I thought, well, that's one way that I could participate for my organization. So Cynthia was extremely welcoming, very positive about us helping to find grants and to write grants that would help the city accomplish goals on for sustainability in neighborhoods, et cetera. We had talked about bikeability, walkability, and that kind of planning, smart codes and that type of thing. And subsequently in our conversation, I learned that the city and the county and other partners are currently working toward an application for a HUD grant called Choice Neighborhoods. And I imagine you all probably know about it. But they've identified a neighborhood, and they're gathering partners now, and they're going to go for the planning grant. The actual HUD Choice Neighborhood Grant can be up to $30 million, and it's for revitalization of a neighborhood. And it builds in everything, education, job creation, economic development, health, bikeability, walkability, all the things come together in that kind of a, what they call a transformational plan. I just wanted to read just the overview. It says neighborhood grants, choice neighborhood grants transform distressed neighborhoods and public and assisted projects into viable and sustainable mixed income neighborhoods by linking housing improvements with appropriate services, schools, public assets, transportation, and access to jobs. So it's just a marvelous opportunity to bring together the kinds of things that people are working on in a particular neighborhood. So I sent an email to Cynthia a couple days ago and suggested that she include Christian Wagley from our group. Christian has a degree in environmental science, and he's been working for the last decade of his life on smart code and sustainability. And he could be kind of a citizen's representative in that in the planning group. So I have a copy of the overview and the two-page goals and objectives for the planning grant and what this group would have to do, all the areas they have to address in order to develop this, a plan, a transformational plan, and I'll leave that with the council. I didn't make copies for everybody, but I figured that you all could do that if you wanted to see it. But just to let you know, Sustainable Gulf Coast is, we're walking our talk, and this is one aspect of it, is that I will do whatever I can, and we will bring whatever resources we can if it's appropriate for us to be involved.
Thank you, Mrs. Feathers, and we really appreciate your effort in this regard, and we acknowledge all of the good thing that you're doing in this area, and we really appreciate it. I have a couple of council members who would like to speak. Councilman Spencer?
Yes, thank you, Susan, for showing up again and proving that you all are going to help walk the talk. I just wanted to give you an update. I met with one of the city staff members this morning, and that is Sherry Morris. While council members cannot give any directives to the city staff, I suggested that she speak with those in terms of in the administration that help delegate use of her time and discuss the implementation of or establishment of a meeting schedule with you all, your group, as volunteers, and reminded her that that was one of the promises that we gave you, was that with your volunteer workforce, we needed to provide a framework and establish meetings so you all could plan accordingly, and so
Great.
that message was conveyed this morning.
Thank you.
And I suggested that she contact, when she was given the permission to do so, Christian Wagley as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it, Councilman.
Councilwoman Mark?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for your involvement and following up on my suggestion. I thought that Ms. Cynthia Williams would be very open to meeting with you. And the document you have, is that something you can send to me by email?
Yes.
Or you could send all of the council members
Yes,
by
okay.
email?
All right, I'll do that. I'll send it all of you a copy
Great,
of it.
thank you.
There's just one other thing I wanted to mention as that just piqued my memory. How many of you all are familiar with the X Prize for science innovation? It's something that's it's a national prize, and it's heavily funded, and it's open to anyone. You don't have to have a degree, you don't have to be at a college, but they basically apply. They give you a question that's a problem in technology, and they put it out there for anyone that can solve it within 1 year. And if you solve it, you get like a mega gift of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and your product is brought to commercialization. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking that in terms of our high schools and the universities and State College, that we could have our own X Prize that would invite students to actually work on a sustainability design project each year. It's just something that I thought maybe.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Pratt?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I just wanted to comment that after your group came last week, it jogged my memory of our previous discussion about desiring to come up with a complete streets policy or ordinance, and many of us piled on mentioning our support of trying to figure out ways to deal with improving bicycle and pedestrian access. And on Monday, I asked that on our next agenda that the council discuss this so that we can be proactive on bringing this issue that is of clear concern to this council forward. And so as we are short-staffed as a council, as in no staff, I'm not really sure what our process is, but if you have any information about complete street models and other things, if you'd like to share that with me, and I can try and get that on for in our discussion and those materials together for the council so we can have a productive discussion.
I would love to do that. I'm sure Christian and others would.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Elaine Sargent.
Good evening. I am also a member of Sustainable Gulf Coast 350 Pensacola. And I come here tonight to give my support to the Land Development Code amendments offered at the last meeting that would create the Maritime Redevelopment District. As we work to reduce energy use and create healthier, more sustainable places to live, we must make fundamental changes in community design. We need these responsible and reasonable standards to ensure that whatever development takes place in this high-profile area is pleasant, human-scale, and pedestrian-friendly. I know you won't be considering this again until March 8th, but we thought it was appropriate to come tonight, so you'll be thinking and knowing that we are in support of this. Without these standards, there is no guarantee that we will realize this kind of community. Form-based code is not complicated. The process creates a clear and articulate vision for a district such as this. The plan for this district will allow many kinds of businesses and residents to coexist and will allow for a special sense of place that is not found in our urban sprawl areas. It will enhance creativity rather than box and confine use as conventional zoning would. I know there was some concern about what kind of places could be in these areas. It doesn't define that. It just gives a more friendly place for people to coexist, to connect, and it's the kind of model that is being used in many cities across our great nation. A mix of use and housing types ultimately reduces the need to travel as part of one's daily routine. And that's something that, you know, as a sustainable group, we really like. This kind of forward thinking is what our city needs. We can become a model city where people are healthy and connected. I applaud you for your leadership in this matter, and I thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much. Gary Sanson.
Gary Sansing, 1517 East Jackson, citizen of this paradise here. First off, the beginning of the week, I took another citizen out to your area, Wildlife Sanctuary, the old Maggie's Ditch, which I choose to call Walden Pond, in the Global Learning Center. They were giving out report cards, and it's like open house. So I got me a yard pass, and we went in and seen a wonderful event. I mean, there were volunteers there even before you get there. The Rotary Club had a cookout. It was wonderful. These things, which I mentioned, the city had no involvement in any of them. And when the lady that just spoke talked about partnership, let's get a partnership going here. It's like right now, the school properties, and that's what we were referring to earlier, that are sitting vacant, that could be wonderful parks. The thing that really burns me up is you don't have staff. It's been over a year, and you still haven't got a staff person or staff people or attorney. That's what really bothers me, because you people don't get the information. Citizens don't get the information. And I wish to thank you for putting up with occupiers. I know it's an eyesore, but it's going to happen all over the country, and it's going to get worse. No matter what they say, Congress is worse off than you people. You have probably a good public. I mean, people still sort of trust you. They don't trust Congress anymore. Isn't that unbelievable? About less than 15%. Now, what I laid, and I hope it gets passed around, is the long term, I mean, the cause of this crisis we're in. And I keep calling it a crisis. You know, this is a copy for the, Mr. President, for Reynolds and the clerk. What it is a few pages to educate you people. I've got it to most of the other I will get it to the congressmen and the senators. What has caused this crisis? Neither Republicans or Democrats, other than Ron Paul, speak to this issue. And Democrats and liberals and Green Party like myself are having to reach out to support what the heck is going on. When they say 40% of Florida is underwater, and I've been speaking to this, I apologize not to reaching out to you more, but to the county and other people. And I have been hoping you people would sit down with the city, with the county and the school board to make things happen here. And thank you for putting up with me. And this is in your district too. Them wonderful things. They ought to have, in fact, I'm going to the chamber to have them put it on must things to see in paradise. Thank you, people.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for the information.
Please read it. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief?
Mr. President, members of council, Mr. Reynolds. Councilwoman DeWeese had asked me to come down and speak to the council just to kind of bring you an update on a car child safety seat program that the fire department's been involved with. About a year ago, firefighter Gary Creel came to me and asked if we could look into becoming a location or a department that installs child safety car seats for free to the citizens of the area. He looked into it. He did all of the lead work. He and Lieutenant Chuck Walters went on to become technicians last March. Since March of last year, they have installed probably about 20 car seats a month and had 2 car seat rodeos where at the fire station people come and on a Saturday and they install car seats, give them education about that. But the real goal was to grow this thing much, much larger. And they have just completed this week their instructor level. So now they'll be able to teach the balance of the fire department how to become technicians. And at that point, we are in the process of partnering with Sacred Heart Women's and Children's Hospital to work with them to actually install upwards of 100 car seats a month in the area for people prior to the birth of their child. The goal is not to just install and assist people after they've had children, but to get with the OBGYN doctors, give out literature, have a schedule for them to come by the fire stations and do that. Firefighter Gary Creel has gone above and beyond. He's applied for grants. We have been awarded a small grant, and he's reapplying this year for actually a mobile education unit, like a trailer self-contained that we can take to festivals and events. But in the meantime, the state has already awarded us to become a hub or in this region to be the distributor for the area. So we're really excited about it, and Councilwoman DeWeese could see my excitement about it, and she asked that I come down and share that with you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, Councilwoman DeWeese. Mr. Mize, David, Don, I'm sorry. Yes, I assume you're wrong.
Good evening and thank you. I again am back. I am calling for the resignation of Mr. Hall. I would like to, Mr. Spencer, you are my councilman. I am asking again that you all bring to a vote to remove him from his seat. I'm also here from Occupy. I know there have been comments made about the mess down at the Triangle, because that's where we're reduced to, is the Triangle. Again, those of Occupy, we're not making the mess. It is the homeless of this city. They have no place to put their clothes. They have no place for their personal belongings, so they choose to do it on the Triangle. All I can do is try to keep it dry. When it gets to a point, I throw it out. I don't like a mess either. I'm a typical mom. You make a mess, clean up behind yourself. If you don't, I'll trash it. I don't like doing that. I heard a lot of stories last council meeting where a lot of you had worked, helped, took homeless home. The weather's going to be bad tonight. Bad winds, heavy rains. We have tornado watches. They have canceled by now. You want to help? We don't have enough beds. Take somebody home. I have. Several of us have taken occupiers and homeless home. And Ms. Myers, I want to thank you for all that you've done for the city, for the people. I truly applaud you.
Thank you.
One more thing. I really like to have tents, not for protection as people think. That is my First Amendment right. Tallahassee has it. It's in Florida. Why can't I? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, that concludes open forum for this period. We will have awards and presentations.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could have Richard Solchenberger, Derek George, and Edward Palmer please come forward. You're the only one, huh? Well, tonight we're excited to announce that we have a 3-member employee team to receive the Employee Award of Excellence. Richard Solchenberger, Operations Supervisor 3, Derek George, Lead Worker, and Edward Palmer, Equipment Operator 3 of the Public Works Department, are the recipients of this award for analyzing and discovering a major discrepancy on a vendor's estimated quote on the refurbishment of a piece of equipment that needed to be replaced. By noticing this inconsistency, the unit was repaired at a substantially less cost of replacing and with an added usable life. The amount that the city was able to save was $10,537.93 for not having to replace the unit. We are proud to award Richard, Derek, and Edward each a check in the amount of $367.60 for their excellent cost-saving idea, and they have our thanks. Thank you very much.
You already got the check.
They have the checks. Good, how are you?
That's one of those arguments that sound good in school, but practically, I don't know if you're going to win that one.
I'm retired now. Won't get any more of this.
Thanks for your hard work.
Yes, sir.
Let's give them
Thank you. Mr. President, unfortunately, the Employee of the Month, Ms. Kathy Condon, is unable to be with us tonight, but she will be recognized here in February. Next, we have the presentation of our employee service pins. Each month, we have employees who reach milestones in their careers with the city. These milestones, which are observed at 5-year intervals, are symbols of commitment, hard work, and dedication in serving the people of Pensacola. Employees are the city's most important asset. As part of the city team, they individually and jointly seek ways to improve the quality and efficiency of services to every citizen. Tonight, the City Council and the citizens of Pensacola have the opportunity to publicly recognize and thank this special group of employees. As I call your names, would you please step forward to receive an award of the city's appreciation and be recognized by the members of the City Council. For 5 years, Sean Babcock, Maintenance Worker 2, Port of Pensacola. Sean transferred to the maintenance department of the port in October of 2010. From day one, Sean has accepted the challenges of learning his new position in a very positive way. The maintenance employees face a variety of tasks in keeping the port's assets in proper working order. Sean has proven he has the initiative to perform these tasks and has taken an ownership role in performing his work. Thank you very much, Sean.
This way, Sean.
Good job, Sean. Congratulations. So, you know, it's a self-inflicted wound.
15 years, Mr. Johnny Banks, Field Services Leader, Energy Services. Johnny began his career with the city in 1994 with the sanitation department. He left the city for a career change in 1999, but then just couldn't stay away, came back to us in 2001 as a field services technician with ESP. Another career change captured him in 2007, but he came home again in 2008, proving the old adage that the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence. Johnny's experience demonstrates the value of a city career, and the ESP is proud to have him home for good. Thank you, Johnny.
Give them all a round of applause.
And that concludes awards, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. The council next, any public hearings, Madam Clerk?
There are none.
Any quasi-judicial hearings?
There are none.
Mayor's report?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call on Mr. Dick Barker to give his financial report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renner, Mr. President, and members of City Council. The report I'm getting ready to give is for the first 3 months of the fiscal year, the first quarter we have been through. As reported at the November review, things have not changed much. Revenues that I normally report on, every one of them are down from the budget area. Municipal revenue sharing is the only one up slightly, which is about on budget. But I did want to report to council that although we're down about $337,000 for the quarter, of course that can come back because a lot of those are variable revenues, but we have accumulated that much savings on the expenditure side. So in total in the general fund, we still have a balanced budget into the plus, although the revenues are down. And then the other revenues that I report on, local option sales tax is down, local option gasoline tax are down for the quarter. Inspection Services Fund, glad to report this, that the revenue and expenditures, that there's $76,000 to the good for the first quarter. So that's positive for the community and also positive for the Inspection Services Fund about the activity that is going on in our city. The Tree Planting Trust Fund at $680,000 is the balance in that, and the Park Purchases Trust Fund is about $38,000. The issue with Energy Services of Pensacola, not really a dollar issue, but I would say that a yellow flag is up on that area. If you recall, last year we had issue with ESP, and when I say issue with ESP, it's just that it hadn't been cold. It hadn't been on budget, what they had budgeted. It has not been through January. We know that it has been warm. So we're watching that, and we're looking at the expenditure side of their budget. But most likely, as we move through the rest of the year and that type of thing, that we'll be reporting mainly after the March time frame. We'll know exactly where ESP is going to be, but it does not look positive at this point. And then the other issue that's really a future issue, we've been discussing pensions around this city since 2005 and the effect of those pensions and taken various actions on that. But we have received the 3 actuarial reports for the 3 pension plans. The mayor had requested that the boards hold off on approving those reports until he had a chance to have staff meet with the unions. I think council's aware that all the union contracts come due in September. All the boards have complied with holding off. Two have not approved the reports. One has held it on the table. But had those reports been approved for fiscal year 13, the upcoming fiscal year that we're working on now, we would have had an increase of $2.6 million in contributions from the city. And the unfunded actual accrued liability, those reports showed increased by $37.5 million. Most of that has to do with market, except for the police, where they have changed methods. They were in 08, we worked with them to change method. They held off doing that, but they have changed to how the general and fire funds method is. So pensions are going to be an issue. They need to be discussed. I think council's aware of that. We've tried a couple of things in 08, tried some things in 9 and 10. And certainly it's not going away. The issue has to be looked at and squarely dealt with, and the mayor's office is working towards that. And then also, I'm just going to flip through these unless council wants me to read those, but also council had requested that we report to council any contracts over $25,000. And this is a listing of those contracts since the last that we reported in November. And with that, I did want to remind council of the fiscal year 2013 budget calendar. It is moved up from last time. The council had requested that. So on February 17th, all the priorities from the city council are due to the mayor's office. I believe each of the councils were sent a letter on that. March 1st and 6th, we're going to have public input meetings to receive input on the budget. On June the 11th, we plan on distributing the document to council, which is quite a bit in advance of last year at council's request. And then you ask council to approve the trim notice on July 19th, and with workshops planned for July 23rd through 25th. The city council workshops with the public hearings in September. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but that concludes my report.
Yes, I'd like to ask you a question. Yes. On those bids and contracts, were they all competitive or?
They were not. I'll go back and answer that. Each of them are mentioned here, what they were and what they were, but the first two here, there was a bid on both of those, it appears. We bought off of the sheriff's contract on this one, so we did not bid the item, but we are allowed to buy off of other contracts. In the Florida sheriff's contract, we bought the vehicles off of. Quotations was used for the jean floor covering instead of a formal bid. It was $28,262. And then the rest, that was a ongoing contract that we have, and that's for $633,000 out at the airport for handling the baggage and handling system. They're actually performing the maintenance and operating on that.
Okay. Thank you. Congresswoman Deweese.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report is normally posted earlier in the month. I think we had requested as council that it be hopefully by the 15th of the month, and that it was just now posted today.
That's correct.
So is ongoing, will it be the 15th again, so the citizens have a chance to review these and ask questions, and as well as council?
It should be. If you remember last year, we started it in the January, February timeframe when we first did it. This was our first as staff going through this when we were trying to get auditors and the CAFR and those type of things done. So from the January timeframe on, I think we can meet that date. During the October, November, and December when we're working with the auditors and they're in, it will be difficult to have it posted at that time, but we'll do the best that we can. Just as a heads up, I will be giving the formal written report. It will be agended for next time for council, and then I'll give a report on that. Then the following meeting in February, we will have the auditors in presenting the audit report.
Wonderful. So the citizens will be able to come then with their questions in February. Thank you.
Councilwoman Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had one question. I reviewed the online information and scanned for any large changes, and I saw that there was a $100,000 increase for advertising in the MIS department, and I would like more information about what the MIS department is advertising.
Yes, ma'am, I will. If you recall, as part of the 12 budget, that the PIO office is in MIS. So that you see is for a branding project that the city has starting with the new advertising agency.
Was that money from, we have the program areas in the budget, we have the line items and then the program areas. Was that in the PIO, or did that come from somewhere else in MIS?
It was not, it's the first time we had a PIO office, and actually some of the dollars were budgeted in the general fund in the various departments. This branding project, it was difficult to determine exactly how much should be to each of the departments. So what we did is we have just charged it into the PIO office, and it will be allocated out. But as we move on with the project and that type of thing, in the advertising, those that can be specifically identified to departments like ESP and Airport Port will be directly charged there. But overall encompassing city projects will be in the PIO office, and in the 13 budget we'll have a better handle on how much dollars to allocate into that area, into that program.
And on that topic, I believe that $100,000 of a new thing that we've never done should be discussed with the council, and so I hope at the next meeting we can have information on what this plan is and what this $100,000 is going to be used for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Anything else from the mayor's office? Mr. Mayor?
That concludes the mayor's report.
Thank you. Council communication. Mr. Gerald?
No, my light was on to speak before Mr. Barker left the microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Barker, Councilman Gerald likes
Good evening, Mr. Barker. A quick question. As you prepare the budget, forward budget, has there been any change in outside agency funding, or will that list still be a part of what we do as a council? If so, I would like to have a copy of the list of remaining outside agencies that maybe have an opportunity to receive funding within the next budget cycle.
I can supply you a list of the agencies that we have, and any request that we have, we can have forwarded to City Council if they would like to review those.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Communications, Councilman Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Yes, I'd like to make an announcement that the fishing will no longer be allowed on the Cervantes Bridge, also known as the Dr. Payne Bridge. The fishermen have lost their privilege of fishing there. About 2 years ago or so, I brought up the issue of needing trash cans there for the fishermen to put their debris, et cetera, there, and they really didn't comply. So there's been, FDOT has made the decision that there will no longer be allowed fishing there. They have lost their privilege. There should be some signs being posted here soon if they haven't already been posted. Just want to make everyone aware of that. I have received numerous complaints over the years of debris, and it's just really unfortunate that that wasn't complied with the picking up of trash, et cetera. Many times I'd walk across the bridge and I'd look at the trash cans and I'd see trash laying right next to the trash cans. And so it's an unfortunate thing. We also have, the city of Pensacola has had to pay for $4,800 worth of lights being replaced there. Fishermen have allowed their weights to hit those lights, and those lights have had to be continually replaced at the at the cost of $4,800 to our taxpayers. So they've lost their privilege. It's unfortunate. We've talked about this over and over. I think Mr. Cohen walked that bridge, former employee here, and he had even brought up the fact that he had witnessed it and encouraged all to try to continue to, to try to clean up their mess there. So I know we talk about occupying their mess out here on the triangle. There was a mess there on the bridge that that continued on. So they've lost that privilege. I wanted to make that public today, and I think those signs will go up soon. I also wanted to mention that I appreciate DEP and other citizens' help, the City of Pensacola and the mayor and his staff for the recent building of oyster reefs there at Bayview Park. We had a successful outing. I wasn't there this time. I was there the time before. I know it was reported in the news, and that effort is going to continue, and I want to thank all citizens that took an active role in building those oyster beds. I do appreciate that, and we know the value of oyster beds in our bayou. The other things, I noticed that Southwest Airlines recently had a press release saying that they were going to, it looks, continue their service after acquiring AirTran, and I want to thank Southwest Airlines for that commitment to our community. We all know the value of having a low-cost carrier coming to Pensacola. Recently we heard news of Fort Walton Beach losing one, but with Southwest Airlines coming to town, I think that we will continue enjoying those good rates that the City of Pensacola was. The City of Pensacola's asset, that being the airport, is a tremendous asset, and I get compliments on it quite often, as I'm sure all council and the mayor's office does, and I want to welcome Southwest Airlines to Pensacola, Florida. The other thing I'd like to mention tonight is tomorrow night will be gallery night in downtown Pensacola. I would encourage all to come down, enjoy downtown Pensacola. I know that I'll be down there, and I would encourage all to come down and pick your trash up as you and put it in a garbage can if you have an opportunity to. But again, getting back to the fishermen losing their privilege there on the bridge, I hate that happened. Those signs should go up soon, and just wanted to let the public know of that. And thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Myers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone, the public, about the mall ball at Cordova Mall this weekend, that's Saturday on the 28th. And this is an incredible event. It is for the purpose of raising funds for Sacred Heart Children's Hospital. This event has been going on now for about 16 years, and they've raised over $2 million. All of the proceeds go to help children who are sick or injured who are patients at Sacred Heart Children's Hospital. It starts at 8 o'clock. It goes to 12 o'clock. The mall will be closed at 8 o'clock just to accommodate this great event. It's always jam-packed. And I called today and found out that there are still tickets available. So if you want to have a really great time in uptown Pensacola, it's going to be rocking, and it's for a good cause, and I encourage everybody to come down and participate and help Sacred Heart raise some badly needed funds for children who need medical care. So with that said, that's the only announcement I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any petitions?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll get to the agenda, meeting of the Committee of the Whole, and all of the items that were discussed at the Committee of the Whole will pass unanimously, and so therefore they are listed on the consent agenda. I will read them, and then we can vote accordingly. There's one individual who'd like to speak on item 11B, and we'll hold that one out. So, first item is a water bid improvement and upgrade to Exchange Park Sports Complex. Item C, consent approval by the City of Southern Company Services, Inc., sublease agreement. And item D, lease extension agreement for Port Royal Phase 2, Lot 2. What's your pleasure?
Move the approval.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Would you please vote? Okay, it's approved unanimously. Item B is creating section 8124 of the city code, creating fine for excessive code violation. That's indicated as one individual who has to speak to this, but prior to that, if you recall at Monday's meeting, I made a statement regarding this in terms of the summary. I did not, in my view, cover all of the aspects and the necessity for having this particular ordinance. And I had asked if we could get just a clarification on what we are trying to accomplish on this particular ordinance, and then I'll have the individual come forth to speak. Mr. Hanson, could we have some?
Thank you, Mr. President. If Mr. Steve Weineke could join us, please.
It's a tall order today.
It's going to take Mr. Weineke just a few minutes to get down here.
Mr. President, members of council, Mr. Reynolds, one of the things that Councilmember Gerald's expressed concerns about was the intent of the ordinance, and I expressed this, and in fact, a citizen came by our office to ask me some questions about it. The intent of the ordinance is not to pile on. If you have a code violation that you're already receiving a fine for, that's not the intent of this ordinance. The intent of this ordinance is to deter property owners from using the city as a property management company, plain and simple. And I use an example. We worked about 1,800 overgrown cases last year. And it's time consuming, it takes a lot of staff effort, and we'll send out a notice of violation and John Doe will cut their property, and 3 weeks later it's overgrown, the neighborhood's complaining, send out another notice of violation, property owner will cut their property. It's never ending. The city, i.e. code enforcement, is the property manager. This ordinance is designed to deter that. If upon passage, we'll send, a summary of the ordinance out with our notice of violation. So, and that was a concern of citizens, well, how will they know? Well, we'll send this out with our normal notices of violations, so they will be. But I think it's a good ordinance, and I think it will deter.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn. Okay, as I indicated, we have one individual, Marlon Mueller, would like to speak to this.
State his address, please.
Give your address too, please.
Oh, sure. I think it's.
It's
sorry, I just
412
moved.
West Gregory?
It is.
Is that where you live?
Yeah, and I'm Marlon Mueller.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I just moved so recently. Vice President Townsend and council persons. First, I want to say I went and saw Mr. Weineke the day after the meeting of the whole, and my only concern with Mr. Weineke is that he's intelligent and personable, and he's probably going to move up out of his place before too long. So that's one reason why I wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention. I'd first, of course, like to thank Mr. Weineke and his staff. They gave generously of their time, and also for Mr. Weineke's assurances how this ordinance would be handled if adopted. And while his assurances are good enough to satisfy my own concerns, I would ask you to consider before voting on this ordinance that assurances only last as long as a person sits in a particular chair of authority or service, and that any well-written ordinance should stand on its own. To do this, the ordinance should include certain criteria as well as stand up to a measure of need. For instance, when I heard Mr. Weineke speak at the meeting of the whole, he used as reference for a need of this ordinance a lady who owns 12 properties. The next day when I spoke to his staff attorney, he mentioned the same lady. Also, when speaking with the staff, same lady. And when I spoke with Mr. Weinecke in his office, and after using the same lady as reference, he told me that he thought that there were about 24 people that last year would fall into the same category as the lady with 12 properties, but didn't have the hard numbers. It, takes time to get that stuff together. I would like to suggest that he provides these numbers and the names, if legal, for your review before you vote on this ordinance. Again, the question being, is the ordinance needed, or is it just targeting one person? Secondly, as for criteria, I believe it should be clear and precise, inclusive, and be applicable to all citizens that fall under the specific ordinance. I've read and reread this ordinance dozens of times and cannot find clarity in respect to individualizing properties when owned by multi-property owners. Consider, if you would, paragraph 1 as a multi-property owner. As written, to me, it's unclear whether each property will be targeted separately or all properties owned by a person are inclusive. In fact, as I read the paragraph, it appears inclusive to the individual, not the property. I would like to suggest a fix for this issue by inserting an A between the words for and private in the first paragraph. I believe this will clarify the ordinance is speaking to properties, not the citizen that owns multiple properties. The other thing is, Mr. Weinecke made point of this in his last comment. I'd like to see notification of this new ordinance, if enacted, be sent with all issued ordinances for a period set by this council. Thank you.
Councilperson Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And I just wanted to comment that he was asking about making sure it's not targeted at one person. And one of the things we discussed on Monday is that we'd like to have a report back in a year on the efficacy of this and how many people did get affected, so that we can better understand what the outcome of this ordinance is. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, you got something else?
I could address the concerns if it's an issue of council.
Please.
I appreciated Mr. Mueller coming by the office. We had a very good conversation. And one of the concerns expressed was, he asked if somebody owns 5 properties and all of them become, in violation at once, would this ordinance be applicable? And no, and the way it's worded, further in the sentence, it says the condition of the property. And I think that covers it legality-wise, and it's not, and it will be utilized for each individual property. If a person owns 12 properties, each individual property will have to become in violation over 4 times before this ordinance is enacted.
Thank you. Okay. Please vote.
I think
a motion and a second.
Move the approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote.
Dr. Wu?
You didn't buzz.
Approve unanimously. The next item was report of the committee of the whole. As I indicated, all of the items that were discussed at the committee of the whole were included in the consent agenda. A report of Community Redevelopment Agency.
The Community Redevelopment Agency did not meet and therefore has no report.
Thank you very much. Ordinance on the first reading. Madam Clerk.
Item 14A is proposed ordinance number 02-12, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance creating section 8-1-24 of the Code of the City of Pensacola, Florida, prohibiting repeated and excessive code violations, providing a penalty and method of appeal, providing for severability, repealing clause, providing an effective date.
What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
Please vote. Ordinance second reading.
There are none.
Any resolutions?
There are none.
Okay, now we're down to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Councilwoman Myers.
Yes, I want to bring up several issues. One is the Environmental Advisory Board. I've brought this matter up to council numerous times and to Mr. Reynolds. I am very disappointed that this issue was not put on the agenda for discussion at the Committee of the Whole. Of course, I wasn't there, so in a way, I'm kind of glad it wasn't, but I would like to have been there. But I was in the process of making a motion to have this issue placed on the agenda. And Councilman Hall, who was serving in his capacity as president at the time, said, it's not necessary for you to make a motion. I'm going to put it on the agenda. Now, that really concerns me, that that issue did not get on the agenda, as Mr. Hall had promised he would do, which kept me from, bringing forth the motion I was going to make, that it be an agenda item at the Committee of the Whole. So I would like to make a motion that the issue of the Environmental Advisory Board be placed on the next Committee of the Whole agenda for discussion as to the council's intent for that committee to meet. So that's the motion.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Please vote. Okay, it's unanimous.
Okay. Now, I'm hoping that at the next Committee of the Whole, Mr. Reynolds can provide us with information as to who's going to be staffing the Environmental Advisory Board. I have spoken with Keith Wilkins.
Councilwoman Myers, we've made a decision. We're going to discuss it, so we have to elaborate. We don't need to elaborate.
Okay. So you want me to shut up? All right, I'll do that. You could have just said that.
Okay, I'm trying to be nice.
Thank you. Okay, can I go on to my next unfinished business? I would like a update on where we are with hiring council staff. Does anyone know?
I recall at least 2 meetings ago that the president had indicated that we were going to look at it later. I do have at least 20 applications that I was supposed to review, and I assume that the other committee members, that initial committee, had received them also. If there's no objection, I will ask, since I'm chairing, and try to determine if we can't get that on the next agenda, if that's agreeable with everybody, to determine where are we going with this, if anywhere. Could I get any comments on that?
Well, yes, sir. I would like to make a motion that we place on the agenda of the Committee of the Whole the topic of an update on our efforts to hire our council staff.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Please vote. I'm sorry, back up. Councilwoman Pratt, did you want to discuss that issue?
No, I buzzed
Okay,
to
well,
do my own thing.
go ahead and vote. All right, it passed unanimously.
Okay. I have one other item. I wanted to thank Mr. Messer for his very well organized
I'm just getting out of the way so y'all can see.
and thoughtful memorandum of law presented to the City Council President regarding the issue Council asked him to address, and that is Senate Bill 206, which the bill number has changed, which will ensure that the citizens have the right to speak at certain public forums. And you did a very good job of the research and bringing us up to speed on this. At some point, I want to bring up before the council a motion that we support this bill. I think a letter should be sent to our Northwest Florida delegation letting them know that we support the right of the citizens to speak at public meetings. Actually, we already have this process here, but this makes sure that it does not go away. And I think our council does a fantastic job allowing the citizens to speak way beyond what even this bill allows. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to do this really good research and memorandum of law for us.
I appreciate your kind words.
Thank you, Councilwoman Myers. I want to echo that. I read it, and excellent piece of work. We appreciate it. Councilwoman Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. First, I'd like to reiterate my request for an update on the fish farm, what the status of that is. I heard that we weren't selected in the first round. I just didn't know where we stood. Second, I'm hoping we can get an update on the Blunt School demolition and that process. And what the next steps are. Then I also would like some information about our relationship with the Escambia treating site. During the budget process, I noted in my request to the mayor that there was $100,000 approximately allocated in our local option sales tax towards Escambia treating site land. And I suggested that it might be appropriate, rather than doing it in the budget process, that we should have had a discussion about it at that in the near future, this last fall. And that was left in the budget, though there was some money from fiscal year 2011 that was left in. And so I had assumed, I guess wrongly, that changes to the fiscal year 2011 budget would have to come back to the council. And anyway, I saw recently that the county has agreed to transfer this Superfund site to the city, and I think that it is something that we as a council should deliberate on, because taking on that kind level of risk would definitely be something we need to be knowledgeable about in terms of what the future liability to the city is. So I hope that we can get an update on what this process has been, what the money has previously been spent on, and what the next steps are. Thank you.
Could we get an update on that, Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll make sure that all three of those issues are prepared for an update at the next council committee of the whole meeting. And if I may, in just regards to Councilwoman Myers' issue on the Senate Bill 216, we can certainly prep a resolution for council on that. If the council would vote on that, I can start that process. So.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I might add, in this morning paper, there was a notice regarding the Blunt property, and apparently you have to, a procedure, you have to secure or publicize the use of CDBG monies to secure, and that was in the paper this morning. Okay. So it appears that an effort is going to demolish and ensure that we can use that money to do that particular project.
Okay. But if we can have some sort of memorandum or something that will explain that. I missed it in the paper. Thanks.
Thank you. One item that was brought out on the discussion of sustainability was mentioned that there had been a meeting of a group of folks who had made a decision about some area in the city that they were going to utilize it. If that has happened, I sure would like to get some information on that. That there have been a group of people that have been meeting to the county and city and someone else to try to get a grant, I believe it is, to go somewhere in the city in terms of multiple housing and all those issues that's dealing with sustainability. And I'm just wondering if that has taken place, could I get some information about it?
I'll inquire and find out for you, Mr. President. We'll take care of it.
Thank you. All right. In new business?
Is my light working, sir? Is it on? Is it working?
No, it isn't. You got, Councilman Gerald? It isn't on, but go ahead. They got you off.
Well, good. I'll reach over. What I'd like to do, and I wanted to enter it under unfinished business.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As you may recall, at least 7 of you should recall, in the 07-09 year time frame, we sat and we held a strategic planning day. There were some plans and a lot of talking. I think we talked all day. And there were some plans, strategic plans and goals that were developed as a result of that meeting. What I'd like to encourage us to do is to take a look at those strategic plans and to see what, if anything, have we done. Did we follow any of it? As I reviewed it a couple of nights ago, there were some things that had been accomplished, and things that had been on the table for quite some time. And it's good when you do strategic planning and any sort of review that at some point you have to go back and look at it. You want to know and evaluate your own performance. Did these things actually happen, or did we sit around talking all day and eating and set down some plans that no one ever looked at again? So I don't know if it needs a motion to come up, but I would encourage each council member to go back to obtain a copy of those strategic plans and be prepared to discuss it. There are some things perhaps, and I don't know even if we would want to have another strategic plan, but as a council, I think, as a matter of fact, I do think we need to have a strategic planning day, because there are some things that we, and I can say that because I sit up here and I observe quite a lot, and as you can tell this evening, I've been quiet and listening and absorbing. That gives me an opportunity to do my reflective communication model, to look back at what was said and where we're going. But I think we need to come back and look at, and to have a strategic planning day so that we can have a meeting just among ourselves. Of course, the public will be invited, but so that we can get the input from them if they have any. But I think there's some things that we need to talk about among ourselves as a council. One of them came up was the direction of council staff. And one of the speakers mentioned, it's been a year. No board can effectively operate. And we're acting as if it's not an important item. We need to take care of that. The charter clearly states what we're supposed to do as the legislative body. And I sort of get the feeling we're just not following it. It's just a bunch of words on paper. So until we get down to some serious business and roll up our sleeves, we're just going to bounce around and flounder like a fish out of water. So it's important that we face our responsibility and live up to it. So if anyone is interested in having another strategic planning day, but I do deeply encourage you to look at those plans. Let's go down the list, talk about what we've done, what we have not done as a council. Because this city had a vision before we changed the charter. And by the way, I was one of the individuals, myself along with a former council member, Hugh King, that had to fight tooth and nail to finally get the group that we had in the past, a part of them, to agree to a pre-disparity study. Finally, they agreed, this group agreed to a full disparity study, but we talked about that for years. But in terms of the charter, it was like a one-man, after Councilman King had left the council, it was like a one-man army. And I had some suspicions and concerns about the charter. And frankly, I'll say that the way the charter is supposed to work, I'm pleased with it, the way it's supposed to work. However, again, I think it's important that we look at the plans that we made, because we have a reputation for doing studies, spending a lot of money, and then we put it on the shelf and do nothing with it. So we have to, I encourage us here to look at our performance, look at what we're doing, so that we don't continue to have the reputation of talking about doing things but really don't actually do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Gerald. If we possibly could, maybe we could put that item on the committee as a whole next agenda item also to discuss and try to discuss that issue that you.
Well, do you need a motion for that, or?
No. Councilman Wu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I don't disagree with anything Councilman Gerald says. The only thing I want to point out is when we did our strategic planning, there are a good number of council members who were not here when that was done. And the dilemma you have is in trying to hold new members to something that former members said that they will do. So I don't know how you get around that. All I'm doing is making us aware of that fact. When we did the strategic planning, I don't think Councilman Myers was with us. I don't believe Councilman Spencer was with us. Councilman DeWeese helped me out. You were there, and Councilman Johnson, were you?
Yeah.
Physically, I was here.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that not everybody, on the council was there. I'm not saying it's good, not saying it's bad. It's just something we have to consider as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Myers.
Well, I share Councilman Gerald's concern. I've been on the council a year now, and I don't recall the council bringing forth on its own initiative one single piece of legislation. We are the legislative body, and there are a lot of things that we can legislate into being or legislate out of being. But I feel that we seem not to have any direction. And I have read the strategic plan when it was formulated. I do think that we should have some sort of workshop to work out some type of strategy. It seems like we are not able to accomplish very much. For one thing, we don't have a staff. It always comes back to that issue. We don't have a staff persons. So I think that I support Mr. Gerald's and his concerns, and I'll make a motion that we make that an agenda item. I feel more comfortable making a motion to have something placed on the agenda than just having somebody say, we'll place it on the agenda. I don't want that to happen to me again. So I'm going to make a motion.
I'm not somebody. I'm the chair today.
I know.
That characterized me different from somebody.
Well, I apologize for that, Mr. President, but I wasn't referring to you anyway. So I'm just going to make the motion that be placed on the next Committee of the Whole agenda.
Second.
Proper move second. Please vote.
Dr. Wu?
PC, you're not buzzing.
Okay, it passes 7-1. Brett.
One comment on that, and I was, Councilwoman Myers was commenting that we haven't taken proactive, and that was part of my request with the Complete Street. That was one of our strategic plan items. It's something we, as a council, even including you and Mr. Spencer, who weren't part of that strategic plan, have supported. And rather than waiting on the mayor's office to bring something, we should be able to take the initiative and get something forward. So I hope that we have a productive discussion of that next time.
Thank you. Okay, we're down to open forum again, and we have two cards here, two citizen requests to speak. First one is Mr. Clifford Stokes.
My name is Clifford Stokes, 7480 Rolling Hill Road. I live in the county, but I own property in the city. My concern is that I come to these meetings, and it seems as though the council learns about what's going on in the city like I learn about it in the paper or in these meetings. It seems as though, I know the charter says the mayor is in charge of everything, but somehow you guys are supposed to be up on what's going on. He needs to brief you guys or something, that you don't be as surprised as I am as what's going on in the city of Pensacola. Why are you here if you don't know what's going on? You know, you guys need to be briefed by the mayor as things come up. Certainly these events where he's spending $100,000, $200,000 of our money. So somehow, 9 of you need to be briefed by the mayor quarterly, monthly, or something. Somehow you need to know what's going on, for you can tell the people in your district and your constituency what's going on in this city. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Actually, I believe that is in the charter. The mayor's third enumerated duty is to keep the council apprised of its government. And I don't think personally that it isn't happening as to my satisfaction. It may be happening to other council members' satisfaction, but not to mine. And so I would like to see more communication and updating of things coming from the mayor's office.
Councilman Gerald, do you have your light on?
Yes.
It didn't lighten up over for some reason, but go ahead.
Aha, maybe there's a short in it. But in any case, I too wish to thank Mr. Stokes for his comments, because it gives us a kind of a negative impression. But to respond to something that Dr. Wu had said earlier, and I wanted to remind Dr. Wu and the rest of you that there were only 2 new council members added to this board since those strategic plans were put in place. And that's more than, I'd say, 90% of the participants who actually participated in putting those plans together. And from what I'm hearing at this point, I believe that it is crucial that we go in the huddle and have a face-to-face, hard talk about what we are here to do as a council and what's been going on. I mean, let's put the cards on the table and do what we're supposed to do. No one has control over everything. It is a shared responsibility. We have our side of the fence, the mayor has his side of the fence. And quite frankly, I'll say we're not doing a very good job on our side of the fence. We're up here acting like a puppet show. And it's getting old. In fact, it has gotten old. So take up the banner of responsibility as a council and do what we are paid to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gilmer.
Hey, Mike Kilmer. Thanks for letting me take your time again. I live in West Jackson Street, and I came up here to ask a couple of questions about the fishing on the Cervantes Bridge, but I first wanted to express my feeling of anger and frustration that the mayor himself doesn't come to these meetings. Combined with the fact that in many ways the council appears to be crippled. I think these guys are paid about $250 a week, which buys hardly any of my time, and I don't think they should have to spend it staffing themselves. I don't want Dr. Pratt to be typing up simple letters that someone that makes $8 an hour can do. I have a feeling I would like the mayor personally if I ever meet him, and I'm insulted that he sends two people that may be great people, and certainly the city attorney has spoken a lot in very intelligent ways, more so than Reynolds, who mostly seems to be just by his role going back and forth, delivering information. You tell him either what you want, we tell him what we want. He goes back to the mayor. If we happen to be able to free ourselves for an evening in 2 weeks, we can come back and hear the mayor's response. That's enough on that. In terms of the fishing on the bridge, Councilman Johnson, I just wanted to express, I lived, is that the bridge between like 17th Street that crosses around, or 19th Street and Cervantes?
Correct, between 19th and Sir Richard's there.
My main concern with the fact that there's not going to be fishing allowed on the bridge anymore is just that I feel like fresh fish is one of the few healthy foods that poor people in this community eat. I live across the street from a gas station slash grocery, not directly across the street, but about a house up. So I pick up a lot of garbage. And I'm constantly thinking, what's wrong with people? Put the garbage in your pocket and, put it in a garbage can. I'm curious how many light bulbs they had to break to do $4,000 worth of damage. I imagine they're expensive light bulbs, and I was first picturing ones high up, but I'm guessing they're lights that are below the bridge?
They're the lamps that sit on the top of the light poles.
Okay.
The globes would be more of a better
Okay.
definition of them,
Yeah, I mean, I hope that somebody comes back and figures out a way that they can fish, because fresh vegetables and poor people eat so much junk food. So I just wanted to express that. And if no one, I don't fish there myself, so that's all I really need to say if you want to respond.
Well, thank you very much, sir, and I appreciate those comments, but I want to remind everyone, I think that the Health Department has issued a statement that anything taken from Bite of Horror is not fit to eat. I'd like to remind you of that. Matter of fact, many of our waterways, most of our waterways are polluted. We have a stormwater issue here, and I can talk about that another day because I'm a big advocate for clean water, being a board member of the Emerald Coast Keeper for a number of years.
Yeah.
But, we talked about the issue of fishing on the bridge. We talked about it for a long time. If you notice, the 4 blue garbage cans or trash cans that are on all sides there of the bridge
Yeah.
was because of our efforts to get trash cans there, to encourage people to use them. And unfortunately, they didn't use them. And one of the issues were the globes, $4,800 worth. The globes have had to be replaced in the last year. I think those globes are $400 a piece, so you can do the math. But, I hated that. I think that it's been discussed for years about the fishermen losing that privilege to fish there, and it's happened, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, and I hope everyone remembers that, here as we represent the citizens of this city, that there's many sides to all issues. And there's many people. I had a lunch with someone the other day that lives there in East Pensacola Heights, and he complained to me for a very long time about, he's a jogger, and the trash and debris that's been left on that bridge. So, you have some folks that want to continue the privilege of fishing, but then you have others that use that bridge that have to step around, fish hooks, debris, broken glass, broken beer bottles, not to mention the fact that many of those plastics blow into the bayou and end up in our Gulf of Mexico and eaten by turtles and dolphins and other things. So, we can go on and on about this issue,
Yeah.
but it's sad to say that the fishermen have lost their privilege to fish on that bridge. I did everything I could as a council person representing District 4, having those trash cans put up, and I encourage everybody to walk by and look at them or drive by. They're there. And as I commented earlier, it's sad to see a trash can with trash laying next to it, with plastics and glass and those type of things. So I'm getting the other side of it, and it's just unfortunate. But I do appreciate your comments, and thanks for coming down and expressing them.
Cool. Thanks for your work on healthy water.
Okay. Councilman DeWeese?
You can clear my light. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
I would just like to know what happened to those ordinances that were tabled regarding the homeless. Those haven't really been brought up or talked about. Is there any work being done to those? Last time we talked about them at the committee of the whole meeting, they were tabled. What's going on with that, folks?
Go ahead and ask your question.
That's a question. I mean, are they being talked about? Are they being discussed? Are they being rewritten? Because, I mean, there's already been one individual arrested for falling asleep in a park.
Mr. Reynolds,
And that's one of the things that that bill talked about.
You want to respond to this question?
Response is, Mr. President, that this body tabled those particular ordinances, and staff has moved on to other issues.
So the ordinances didn't pass. They're not gonna be. I mean, what are you saying? They're tabled, like as in they're going to be brought up another day, potentially be passed, or they're going to. I mean, is anyone working on those? Because there's people being arrested and harassed by the police while these things are being tabled. So effectively, what it's talking about is still happening, but the ordinance has been tabled. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's almost like the ordinance doesn't even need to be passed because the things that the ordinance is talking about are already happening. People are already being arrested for falling asleep in parks. So, I mean.
Councilwoman Myers, you want to respond to that?
Well, as Mr. Reynolds said, there's no indication that the ordinance that we tabled is going to come back up. Now, I'll be glad to meet with you, and if you could give me the names of some individuals who you know
Okay.
have been arrested. I mean, they may have been arrested under other laws. I don't know. So, I mean, it's something I'm willing to look into, but
Cool.
I'll have to meet with you afterwards to discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Scott.
Good evening. I just wanted to point out that I did have a card and I didn't get to speak in the last meeting when we were here till midnight almost. And thank you guys for being here. That was a beautiful meeting in my eyes because I saw facades drop, and all of you and all of us too. I'll give you a name of somebody who's been arrested. Jeffrey Scott. I've been arrested and trespassed and been so mistreated that my mother is afraid for me to come down to the city. I stay with my mother in the county. And I come down to talk to you guys because I say I'm from Pensacola, Florida. I'm from the city of Pensacola. And my mother is afraid for my safety because of the way the police treat me. I was arrested for holding a candlelight vigil for Martin Luther King Jr. on his birthday. And the police officer said to my mother, I'm arresting him because I'm tired of dealing with him. Is there justice in that? Is that a law that a police officer is tired of dealing with me? So he gets to take me to jail and I have to pay bail money to get out? You said last week that I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, Mr. Geralds. You said that phrase. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's right here. It's in your heart. It's in your heart, Dr. Wu. It's in all of our hearts. The light is in our hearts if we love one another and stop mistreating one another. Stop abusing our civil rights. I'd like to ask you a question. How do we recall Mayor Ashton Hayward? When he breaks his charter, how do we do that? He should be in these meetings. He should be looking me in the face when I say that your city is mistreating me. Help me. Help. Does anybody have an answer for that one?
If you get a copy of the charter, there's a section in there that gives you the information how you can recall any of us. Okay.
I also heard you say that you're not holding up your end of the deal tonight. I believe that was you, Mr. Geralds. Yes, you guys are. You guys are not the ones not holding up their end of the bargain. The mayor is the one not holding up his end of the bargain. The police are breaking the law, not the citizens these days. I don't like coming here and doing this. I wish I could live in the country I was promised since I've been a child. I wish I could live free and responsible. I try to. I'm trying to respond to the injustice by pointing a light at it. That's it. By using my heart light. By using the love I have left. I asked for 30 seconds of silence when I walked away from the microphone last time I was here. I've only got 20 seconds left. Let's stop and think. Please be silent.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate everybody coming to this meeting. Meeting's adjourned.